Welcome back. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from Chris Adamski of the Trib, who's a guest on our Showdown show occasionally. And this is an interesting one. He said the last time Stanley Cup playoffs opened without the Penguins, the Steelers were 10 weeks removed from Super Bowl. Cowher was still their coach. Big Ben had yet had his motorcycle accident. Mike Tomlin hadn't been an NFL coordinator yet. iPhone did not yet exist, which is stunning when you think about it that way, Andrew. That goes to show you how fast things are going, or actually maybe how slow they're going. All those things happen. But I look at the Penguins now. They're in a situation, since they have missed the playoffs, they're starting anew, and they're going to try to find the right ownership or the management group to take over this team. So my question is, how do you view this job? Because I think even though you have star players there, certainly, you will also have a lot of dead weight. You have contracts you want to get rid of. You don't have much in the system right now, and yet they're going to want to win now because you still have those three in place. How do you look at this job?
I think it's a good job. I think Fenway Sports Group has shown with the Red Sox that they'll pay people in management positions. So I think from that perspective, you got to feel good about that opportunity, whether it's Theo Epstein or Ben Cherington when he was there. I mean, with the Red Sox, they have a history of spending money on people to run their baseball operations. But, it's really stuck between a rock and a hard place. They were an average team across the board, average in goals scored, average in goals allowed. They were average power play. Sorry, Mike Sullivan, not very good. Average goaltending. They won 40 games and lost 42. It's the oldest roster in the NHL. So I think it's a decent job. I don't really see a Stanley Cup contender brewing. I don't see enough good young players to supplement the guys that they have now. So I think it's a pretty tall task to get them back to where they were going back to 2016, 2017, and even in 2018 when they lost to the Capitals in the second round of the playoffs. So I think it's an okay job. It's not as desirable as it was when Ron Hextall first got here or when Jim Rutherford took the job all those years ago.
Yeah, and that person's going to have some vision about what to do with some of these contracts that they'd like to get rid of.
Bob, by the way, did you see tonight, I know we got to get to calls, but you mentioned goalies. Did you see what happened down in Dallas for this game tonight?
No.
Did you see the goalie decision there?
No, I didn't see it.
It happened again. Fleury did not get the game one start.
So they went with
it happens
Gustafsson.
to this guy, yes, everywhere he goes. There's a goalie controversy when the playoffs start, and he's usually on the short end of the stick. And it happened again. Bob, maybe they want to move that contract at the end of the year.
They might.
It could finally happen, right?
And tell you, based on how he's played, Gustafsson has been better in the times he's been in there. So they went with the guy they thought gave him the best chance to win. And Fleury's had a good year, don't get me wrong. But that's an interesting – it's nice to have two you can go to. Let's go to our number one Cochrane Go On Better call of the night, beginning with Matt in Butler. He joins us on line 3. Hello, Matt. How are you tonight?
Hey, guys. Good evening. Hey, I got Ireland contracting coming up to give me an estimate on a roof here next week.
Good.
So that'll be, yeah, good.
There you go,
hey.
Gary and Lady Di. Those are the Ireland owners. I'll tell them, good work.
Yeah. Hey, your comment about Jari, I agree. By the way, there's no reason to sign him. There's no reason to sign to Smith either because neither one of them.
Well, he's already signed. They're going to have to deal with that contract.
I know, but I'm just saying neither one of them are any good. And Sullivan keeps sticking with that. That's why Sullivan's part of the problem. He keeps saying he's a top tier. And I know he's trying to protect his guys, but at the same time, you could have used different language because we know he's not that good. Pony, you just said it. You just spoke about his history here, and Sullivan keeps coaching the team like they were 10 years ago, and it's not going to work.
Well, I think that's also another problem. You can't do with that group of guys what you once did. You can't have defensemen pinch a lot when they're not capable of, number one, going in there and winning that puck battle along the boards. But then they, spring 2-on-1s the other way. We saw so many of those odd man breaks, Andrew, throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, I thought Sullivan, and I was already in a position where I was ready for a new voice, a new coach. I don't think he did himself any favors with fans at that season exit press conference on Saturday. He got snippy with reporters when he was asked, how much of this is on you? How much of it are you to blame? I thought that was totally uncalled for to get in a combative situation with reporters on that day. You missed the playoffs. take your medicine, be accountable, and don't try to give me some esoteric, well, if you go by projected goals and expected goals, and if you subtract shorthanded goals, Bob, the way he twisted himself into knots trying to defend their power play was laughable. The last time they won a playoff series, they had the number one power play in the league. They were obviously good. Now they're average at best, and I've got the coach up there trying to tell me that my eyes are lying to me, and they actually have a great power play that just suffered from bad luck this year.
No, I agree with that. And you look where they are in the middle of the standings in terms of where they are. It's like 14th out of all those teams, and that's not good enough with that group of players, especially when you won't change that group of players. You constantly go back to that group of players even when things aren't going well. Sometimes you got to shake it up. You got to do something different. Let's go to the lines now. We got Jerry and Franklin. Jerry joins us here on the Borders and Borders Hotline.
Hey, guys. Love your show. Thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I got three things. I love what the Buccos are doing. Love the clutch hitting. I really saw a lot of that tonight. If they can keep Juwan Bay healthy and in the lineup as a team, they could have 200 stolen bases by the end of the year. And, Bob, I loved your comment last night about starting the extra innings with a guy on second base and not caring about that.
Yeah,
and I'm not real crazy about it either, but I think it's in keeping with the overall concept of keeping the game shorter. So hang up and listen to what you say.
The game's gotten short enough. It's down 30 minutes, Jerry, so you don't need that 10th inning crap anymore. And quite frankly, it waters down. It always has to me, this whole thing. I understood why they did it. Now it's time to get rid of it. But, hey, bottom line is they got some guys on this team who will steal bases, and I'm glad to see that Derek Shelton's letting him do it. And Bay, if he plays a lot, he can have 40 to 50 stolen bases the way he's going, Andrew.
Yeah, the pace of play thing has just been a revolutionary idea that I think has brought a lot of fans back to baseball, because the time commitment for a baseball season is so overwhelming with 162 games and almost 4-hour games. It just got to be too much for people. There's so much there was so much inactivity, so many dull moments, and I think they've sped that up. Now, I do think they need to kind of, in the playoffs, I think they get it right. I don't want any ghost runners in the playoffs. I think for those games, you've got to do it the old-fashioned way. But, Bob, if they decided tomorrow that they were going to go back to the old standard rules and extra innings, I would be fine with that because of what you said. If a game is 2.5 hours now and the extra inning game makes it an extra half hour longer and you don't have to decide the game on a gimmick, I think that's the best way to do it.
We have a good tweet here from R. Lewicki who says, Ghost Runner extra innings stinks. Should MLB do something like NHL, play 2 to 3 innings after, and extra innings, and then if you get to like a 14th inning or something, maybe you do it. I would be okay with that, Pony, over starting it in the 10th inning. I think it's too soon. Yeah. You've just battled your way into a game, and then all of a sudden you got a guy at second base. And the guy from St. Louis the other day, they won the game eventually, but he comes on, he gets 3 ground ball outs, and he's giving up a run, which doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, let's go back to the lines. We got Bill in Pittsburgh, bottom of the board. He joins us right now on the hotline. What's up, Bill?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, as far as this, you always say, Bob, you've been saying for 5 or 6 years now, we got the top core three here, Crosby and Malkin and them, and we need to win. Now, you've been saying it for 5 or 6 years. If I was the general manager, first thing I'd do is I'd clean house. I'd get rid of Crosby. I'd get all this young talent in there. I'd get rid of Malkin. And
first of all, they all have no trade clauses, and Crosby doesn't.
Yeah,
he's the one guy who's not going anywhere.
The best you're going to get is 2 years out of them. Then you're going to rebuild anyway. What's the difference?
Well, they should have made that decision then, not so much Crosby, with Malkin and Letang in this past offseason. And when they didn't, Andrew, not only that, they doubled down and gave a long contract to Brian Rust of 6 years. They gave a long contract to Rickard Rakell. They gave money to people they shouldn't have given money to, and that's why they were in the situation they were in. You give $3.2 million a year to Kasperi Kapanen. You bring in Jeff Petrie at $6.5 million. I mean, all of a sudden you've got these not to mention Granlund. And now where are you at?
Well, now you've got a team that's older and can't play the speed and skill game that it did in winning back-to-back cups, but they've got a coach who's stubborn enough to try to shoehorn that scheme in to win hockey games. No, I think Malkin and Letang, for how much they paid for those guys, I didn't see better options in free agency. I'm happy they brought him back, but it does take away a lot of your margin for error. And you better get the complementary players right, and clearly the Penguins haven't done that, spending like they have on Granlund, Petrie. Everybody loved the Rust deal. That's looking like the worst one of the bunch in terms of the guys they kept last summer.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder if any of those guys, if they have limited trade clauses, could be dealt. You know, the Rust, the Gensels, even the Raquels. I'm not sure of his situation. We got to go to a break. We'll talk more about that when we continue. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Back in a flash.